Hi, thanks for watching. This is Jessie, and I'm going to be reviewing The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. And I just want to preface this by saying that one of the worst things about doing this channel is when you record a video and then you go back and you realize that you didn't have your headset on or your sound on, and there's no sound to it at all. So this is my second recording of this. I was kind of peer pressured into reading this book, and by peer pressured, I mean that like for weeks every email that I got from all the bookish places that I get emails from had a promotion of this book, and I can't remember exactly what it was that made me go ahead and read it, but I'm glad I did. So it starts in the 1830s, where Anya is living with her father and her brother, and the townsfolk around them are dying of what we know as tuberculosis, but they think is demonic in it's they think it's a demonic entity killing people. The father is a gravestone maker, and he is not prone to the superstitions that the townsfolk is, and he will tell people who talk to him about their superstitions that he doesn't think that that's what's happening. He does unfortunately come down with tuberculosis, and Anya begs him to either get better or take her with him. And unfortunately, he ends up passing. The superstitious townfolk make Anya and her brother eat his ashes because they think that this is going to cure not only their bodies but their souls and save them from the demonic entities that are coming from beyond the grave to steal the lives of the remaining people left behind. So Anya's brother actually ends up dying. So much for that cure. And she's taken in by one of the vicars of the town, but then her grandmother's husband, who is not her biological grandfather but is referred to as her grandfather for the remainder of the book, comes and whisks her away while she's in a fever haze. He takes her to his mansion, and he tells her not to interact with her grandmother because her mind is kind of gone. And when she finally starts to break free of the sick haze, she is told by her grandfather that he saw braveness in her that he was impressed by, and so instead of letting her die, he has chosen to make her immortal like him. Now, the book never actually uses the word vampire, I don't believe, at all to describe the immortals, but Anya's not happy. She's not happy with this at all. And she makes it very clear to her grandfather that she's not happy. And eventually, regardless of his personal or selfish reasons for turning Anya, he shortly sends her off with Augustin, who is an employee of the family. And Augustin takes her overseas because she her grandfather is in America, and Augustin takes her overseas and drops her. Also, he abandons her also at the foot of the Carpathians, I believe it is, with a patchwork family consisting of Peroska, who is the matriarchal wizened old lady, and the twins Eru and Vano. So Eru is also an immortal. Vano is dark and handsome and brooding and has a Jesus-like philosophy to life, while Eru is wild and violent and more like Esau. And I know you're probably thinking the more appropriate comparison would have been to say that Vanu was like Jacob, but I said what I said. So Eru ends up saving the life of a pregnant girl from who I believe is her husband, and I think he kills him. So the villagers go on this bloodthirsty hunt for the person who did this and stole the girl. And Vano knows that they're not going to stop with anything short of a death for justice for the girl and the husband. So Vano tells Arrow, look, if they capture you, they can't kill you, so they're just going to torture you forever as long as they possibly can, and you're going to be in immense pain, and it's not worth it. So let me save you, let me give you life and give them what they want, which is a death. So Vano and Peroska die in a fiery death haze on the porch of the cabin in the woods where they had lived. Anya was initially going to stay in the cabin. She wasn't leaving, but her instincts forced her to run out. She doesn't meet up with Eru again. And so she goes and she lives her life. And this is the beginning of a long, very heartbreaking life for her. She tries to distance herself from people. She tries not to get close to people because Vano, at the end, like near the end of his life, was constantly talking about smelling fire, smelling smoke, and he was talking about Chernobog, the god of endings, and how he knew that he was near and that things were going to change. And from then on, that's all that Anya could think about was Chernobog and how he could take from her that which was most dear. So she tries to distance herself. Unfortunately, no woman is an island unto herself, and she doesn't do a really good job of keeping away from people. So she helps out Mercy, who is a little girl, I believe, of 8 years old, maybe, on a ship, who is there with her mother and her infant brother. Her mother dies on the ship of tuberculosis, and Mercy didn't have money for passage, so Anya pays her her passage and then leaves Mercy and her infant brother at the port. She meets Paul, who is a Jewish artist who lives in the woods and who accepts her as she is, even though he is never really told what she is exactly. He accepts her anyway. And she meets Anai, who is in a small town. Anai finds her a place to live in the woods that nobody's using, where she can live and paint. She gives her a job at the bar cafe that she works at with that her father owns. Um, and Anya gets involved with her life a little bit when she finds out that Anais is pregnant with one of the townsmen's baby who is married, and it's a big drama. So you could tell that Anya's having a difficult time distancing herself from people because of who she is, because of who she is inside. Um, and the town is eventually threatened by Nazi occupation, and Anya helps out the townsfolk in ways that they'll never know that she was helping out. She eventually makes her way back to America, and we find her in the 1980s going by Colette, and she is a preschool teacher, a preschool like an art preschool teacher, where she accepts students in and she teaches them art, and she tries to kind of vet the people that she lets in. She really interviews the parents more than the kids because the kids, they're blank canvases, but the parents, she doesn't want anybody who's going to push too far into her life, who's going to get too nosy, who's going to get too close to her, try to be friends with her. And so when Leo comes in and his parents are drama, like from the start, her initial knee-jerk reaction is there's no way I can let him in because I don't want to deal with the parents. But Leo has such an innate talent when it comes to art that she eventually just kind of gives in and accepts him into her school. And from there, it's just drama after drama after drama with the parents. The mother is a pill popping junkie, and the father um, seems to not really care about Leo. And she finds that he's constantly gone, and she forms these ideas in her head of what's going on in the lives of the parents. And during this time, she's getting closer and closer to Leo. And throughout the book, you could see that she doesn't like who she is. She doesn't like having to hide the fact that she's immortal because she knows that people wouldn't understand or they wouldn't believe her or they think she's crazy or they try to kill her or lock her away. She doesn't like having to drink blood to survive. She doesn't like the things that she does to survive. She drinks the blood of animals. Um, she has gotten to the point where she can control herself, and so she's got, I think, like 20 cats and some birds. But you can tell throughout the book her self-loathing is really a big part of her life, along with being haunted by all of those who have come before her, all those she loved and lost throughout the many, many years of her life. Um, and so the first half of the book is like where you can feel that heartbreak and tension, and it's completely dizzying. And the description of Chernobog was something that I'm wondering if her interpretation of Chernobog is solely from her experience. And that's something that I would have liked to have delved deeper into with this book, because Vano died in a fire. I wonder if her interpretation of things that happened afterward, like when she would smell smoke, when she would smell fire, when her fire alarms would go off, I wonder if that was just her personal experience with Chernobog, or whether the fire and smoke was actually something um, that everybody experienced who experienced Chernobog. It was really interesting. It was such an interesting book. Um, and when I got to the end, I was impressed with the ending. So I just want to preface this by saying that I was impressed with the ending, but I still wanted more. And so I'm hoping with a capital H that we're going to get, I don't know, a sequel, follow one of the other characters, follow Eru, maybe a prequel, follow the grandfather, and see what happened in his life. I would really love to read more in this world. It was just such a good book. And so despite it being about vampires, I felt it was more along the lines of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I absolutely adore Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's one of my most favorite books ever. And so that says a lot about this book and the writing style. And I would suggest reading it. I know that it feels maybe like vampires are a little bit overdone at the moment, regardless of your feelings of how vampires are written one way or the other. This is a different take on it, I think, and it was really interesting, and I definitely recommend it. So if you have read it, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you do read it, come back to the video and let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, because this is pretty high on my list of favorite books. Maybe not within the top 10, but it's definitely up there now. I was really impressed with this book. But thank you so much for watching.